the young and the restless spoilers. In the wake of losing both Diane and Kyle, Jack Abbott found himself spiraling into a darkness he could not easily escape. The man who had once been a towering figure of strength and resilience in Genoa City was now a mere shadow of himself. Losing his beloved wife Diane was devastating enough, but Kyle's departure left a wound so deep that Jack had nothing left to fill the void, except for the numbing embrace of alcohol. Days blurred into nights, and every corner of his once vibrant mansion felt empty, filled only by silence and the echo of regrets. Each glass of whiskey he poured became both a comfort and a poison, reminding him of every failure, every moment he couldn't take back. Jack's days became a cycle of self-reproach and isolation. He pushed away those who cared about him, believing he deserved this punishment. How could he have failed as a husband? As a father? The questions haunted him relentlessly, their weight pressing down on his chest until he could hardly breathe. Was he destined to be alone, unloved, betrayed by the people he held closest? He wondered if he truly deserved this kind of suffering, the abandonment by those he thought would stand by him. Yet he could find no answer, only a bitter taste left in his mouth by the realization of how utterly alone he had become. Nikki Newman saw the change in Jack, her old friend, her former confidant, and the sight of his broken state filled her with sorrow. Jack had been her rock during many of her own troubled times, a friend who offered her support without judgment. Now, seeing him unravel, she felt compelled to return the favor. She couldn't bear to see him in such a state, consumed by grief and guilt, punishing himself over mistakes he could no longer change. Even though they had shared moments of animosity, Nikki knew that Jack's heart was good, and she would not abandon him to suffer alone. Day after day, Nikki visited him, her presence a small but comforting balm to his bruised spirit. She offered him gentle words of encouragement, understanding the pain that wrapped itself around him like a shroud. When Jack pushed her away, insisting that he didn't need anyone, she simply stayed, patiently reminding him that he wasn't as alone as he believed. She brought him meals he refused to eat and sat with him through the silences that spoke louder than words. Little by little, Nikki's steadfast compassion softened Jack's edges, reminding him that there was someone who still cared, someone willing to help him find his way back to himself. But this newfound closeness between Jack and Nikki did not go unnoticed by Victor Newman, Nikki's husband and Jack's longtime rival. Victor's jealousy simmered beneath the surface, a green-eyed monster lurking just out of sight. He remembered the past moments where Nikki and Jack had stood side by side, protecting each other in times of crisis, and the familiarity of that alliance stoked an old fire within him. The idea of his wife comforting Jack, the man he considered a bitter enemy, was intolerable. Victor's resentment turned into a simmering hatred, deepening with each passing day as he watched Nikki extend her hand to Jack, a hand he believed should be meant solely for him. For Jack, Victor's growing enmity was of no consequence. He was beyond caring about the bitter feud that had spanned years and left scars on both their lives. All Jack wanted was peace, peace to drown in his sorrow, to let his guilt run its course. He could feel the tension between them building, yet he didn't have the strength to care. He had no fight left in him, no energy for old rivalries. All he wanted was solitude, to wallow in his sadness and confront the demons that haunted him. The memories of Diane and Kyle played in his mind, taunting him with every sip of whiskey. Why had things gone so wrong? Did he truly deserve this misery, or had fate played a cruel hand? One cold, silent evening, after drinking far more than his weary body could handle, Jack stumbled around his empty mansion. The walls seemed to close in on him, the shadows mocking him with their indifference. His vision blurred, and his legs gave way beneath him as he collapsed to the floor, the bottle slipping from his hand and shattering across the cold tiles. Jack's world went dark, his last thoughts a jumble of regret and loneliness, wondering if this was where his story would end. But fate had other plans. Unbeknownst to Jack, both Diane and Kyle had been keeping tabs on him from a distance, sensing that his struggles had taken a darker turn. They feared what might happen if Jack continued down this self-destructive path, and when word reached them of his worsening condition, they knew they couldn't stay away any longer. Without a moment's hesitation, Diane rushed back to Genoa City, her heart racing with the fear of what she might find.